Hey, Holly here, coming at you from Ruby. I'm going to tell you a story about damage and habits and resilience. Uh, Ruby has sadly sustained a little bit more of the former, which got me to thinking about the latter two. Um, so this time the damage to Ruby was all on me. Uh, I was, yes, 2 days ago driving. I finally got to leave the Sonoran Desert, which I love dearly in the wintertime, but it was getting very hot and it was very much time to leave. And I was slowed down by the repair job on the door and ready to get out of there, ready to get somewhere new. Long day of driving, trying to fit everything in and get everything done and meet all my deadlines despite setbacks and um was following a friend of mine had given me coordinates to a spot that was in a good forest with some reception, and I was hoping to find a place to just stop for a couple weeks. So I drove and followed the Google Maps directions, and it seemed to be pointing me down this road that I didn't think with a gate that I didn't think I could fit through. So I didn't initially go down it, and I tried to go around a different way. Long story short, I felt like I was just driving in this circles. I went through the town the same by the same Safeway and Ace and coffee shops over, a few times. And then so I finally was like, okay, listen to myself. I said, listen, self, if this other van must have gotten through here, you can get through here, which is not the way to decide whether or not to go through a gate that you think you can't fit through, because indeed I could not. So I drove in, and I just had the very front part in, and I heard this sound, and I was like, oh crap. So I got out, and I had been pinned like a moth by this. It was like I wish I had taken a video then, sort of. I would have felt pretty vulnerable about sharing because I was pretty emotional in the moment. I wish I would have. But at least to show this part. But anyways, it was the fence. It was broken, and there was a piece of the fence that was kind of going at an angle, and it got stuck in the seam between the front panel and the front door. And I then made the second, perhaps even worse decision that well, I got to get out of here. I got to find a spot. I'm just going to back up, and there's going to be a scratch, and you're going to have to deal with the scratch on the van. And I started backing up, and it was not a scratch. It was a crumpling in of the metal. And so I stopped at that point, and I was just so incredibly upset. So here's where the habit and the resilience portion, here's where the habit portion comes in. I was so mean to myself at this point. I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Who does this kind of shit? Who do you think you are being, being out here if you would make a decision like this? I was just so mean, stuff I would never say to another person. But here's why it was habit. It didn't carry the emotional weight that sort of response would have in the past. It was more like going back to an old habit. I think of the analogy of a smoking habit, and years later something goes wrong and you pick up a cigarette and doesn't taste very good, and it also doesn't carry the same weight because it's not something that you're doing regularly that's causing damage that you can't stop from doing. So that was just interesting. And then that's where the resilience portion comes in, that I realized that I'm really grateful for the work I've done on myself through, guided therapy and various, employing various strategies and tools to be a little more resilient for that sort of self-flagellation, the harm that we do ourselves after we've done some sort of harm or damage in the world. And I think, which is often by far the greater damage, the greater impact, the thing that makes it worse, because whatever it is in the world can usually be fixed. For example, Ruby, and the damage will be fixed. But back to the story. So I called my friend who had given me the coordinates, who was still in the area, and I said, I am sure there's nothing that you can do, but I would love some emotional support if you'd come down here with me. And she did. Thank you so much, Kathy. It was so nice to have a friend there. And honestly, I don't know, like 10 minutes later, right as she was pulling up, so did this gentleman in a pickup truck whose name is Country. And Country came over, and he had a Sawzall, and we thought about cutting it, but it's Forest Service property, and so we ended up using a tow rope and attaching that to the back of his hitch, and he pulled that metal post, he pulled it out, and I hurried and backed up while he was pulling it out with the truck, and so the damage is not any worse. And it's, it's some damage, it's cosmetic. I will want to repair it soon, possibly just replace that panel, but it didn't hurt anything in the engine. It's totally drivable, and it didn't hurt the door. I say all this, and I should be walking outside because I want to show you the damage. But yeah, that's my story about resilience and habit, and just wanted to ask you all. Here it is. Let's see, am I showing? Yeah. Poor thing. But, like I said, I think the whole panel can be fixed. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you all, have you noticed what kind of damage you do to yourself? If that's a habit for you, if you've noticed any resilience against that, and what are the tools and strategies you use to build up that resilience? Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.